The following recording is of the book Americans Wanta Be Free, which is the official and exclusive biography of Ambassador Emil Wanta, also known as Leo Emil Wanta. This book is copyrighted by the author, me, Marilyn MacGruder Barnewall. Americans Wanta Be Free was first published on the internet beginning in September 2012 through February 2013 at the online site of the Global News and Views.com. It was published one chapter at a time, sometimes one very painful chapter at a time. It was the first time such a publishing venture had ever been done. It was a smashing success, as the book was quickly read by thousands of people in 107 nations around the world. Americans Wanta Be Free was published online for a specific reason. The life of Lee Wanta is so incredible as to be almost unbelievable. For years, people have tried to guess about this or that regarding Wanta's life. Did he really bring down the Soviet Union ruble and in the Cold War? Or did he bring down the Iron Curtain? Or if he did nothing wrong, why was he sent to prison for tax evasion? Or is he really an economic terrorist, as Christopher Story of International Currency Review called him? And then there's the $24,000 question, or perhaps better said, the $27.5 trillion question. Is Lee Wanta really the $27.5 trillion man? Well, much of what's been published about Lee Wanta is untrue. This book was published online so the author could, with Ambassador Wanta's blessing, provide copies of documents to verify as fact what I say about him and the various experiences described in the book that involve Wanta's life. The documents that were provided as links for online readers accompany this audiobook of Americans Wanta Be Free in the form of a separate CD. These documents come from various sources, from Ambassador Wanta, from the Ronald Reagan Library, from courts in Switzerland, New York, California, Wisconsin, from prison personnel who knew him, and from many other resources. My name is Marilyn Barnewall, and I'm the author of Americans Wanta Be Free. Let's begin with the introduction. Whenever I talk or write about Ambassador Leo Emil Wanta, I know people will scoff. I know they will shake their heads in disbelief. Good heavens, they say. No one man has ever created a $27.5 trillion fortune. And when I talk about Leo Wanta, I know I'm placing myself in danger. The people who stole Lee Wanta's money that belongs to the American people largely, have held the highest offices in the land. In the political and intelligence world, and in our system of justice, in our courts, and in our Congress and our military. They don't like having this story told. This is the life story of a real man, a story that challenges anything Ian Fleming ever wrote about a man called James Bond. Well, let me expand on that thought. There will be no pussy galore characters or scenes where Wanta skis downhill on one ski, just a winter's foggy breath ahead of expert archers shooting at his shadowy figure which gleams against the white snow on a moonlit night. Though Pussy or the snow scene exemplify wonderful Hollywood fiction, in this case, truth is far more interesting. And yet, it's a story based on lies. The lies of government versus the integrity and honesty of one man who loves his country. The lies involve what happened to Manuel Noriega in Panama. They involve the Iran-Contra scandal, Osama bin Laden and Stinger missiles. They involve a vice president who, according to America's top spy, Emil Wanta, became president and brought with him into office an organized criminal cabal that resulted in the theft of trillions of dollars belonging to the American people. These lies, and there are many, I only mentioned 3 here, have been verified by international journalists who are currency experts. If you are alive, you need to understand what happened to Ambassador Emil Wanta. His life has had a major impact on yours, even if you've never heard his name. It will continue to impact the lives of your children and grandchildren. Why? He's the guy who brought down the economy of the Soviet Union and, while doing it, lawfully purchased 2,000 metric tons of gold from the Soviet Union's central bank. He's been called the $27.5 trillion man, and it's an apt title. He got that name through savvy investing that resulted in the fall of the Iron Curtain, and by putting together money from over 200 banks around the world to pay off the debt that is currently driving the United States into unnecessary bankruptcy. Unnecessary? Yes. If that portion of the American government that has gone rogue hadn't stolen the funds, President Ronald Reagan had the foresight to have Leo Wanta put aside for the American people, there would be no debt for you, your children, your grandchildren, and their children for generations to come to pay. His life has, indeed, impacted yours, though you may never hear the name Leo Wanta spoken. Our economy would be humming. Everyone who wants a job would have one. Foreclosures, 46% of which are fraudulent according to the experts, and I think it's higher than that, wouldn't openly practice fraud that kicks so many Americans out of their homes. The entire world wouldn't be heading into slavery via the New World Order. You remember the New World Order comments, first voiced by George Herbert Walker Bush, don't you? Many Americans have figured out that the New World Order, of which George H.W. Bush spoke, is a two-class system that consists of an elitist class and a labor class, an oligarchy destined to end in socialism, which is always destined to end in communism. It's not an easy task to write about a covert intelligence operative. The entire purpose of such a person's life is secrecy. Finding facts that support the story can be difficult. I know because I've spent years digging them up, researching them, and either abandoning them or trying to figure out just where in this complicated story they belong. Here are some things to keep in mind as you read this book. This is the man who, by bringing down the Soviet Union ruble, caused the Iron Curtain and the Berlin Walls to come tumbling down. This is the man who generated the largest fortune ever amassed by one person with the intent of giving almost all of it to his country, to America. Leo Wanta created a $27.5 trillion fortune and wants to give $23 trillion of it to you to pay off the irresponsible debt of the Federal Reserve and numerous corrupt politicians, debt that was created as a means to tear down our republic. You may hear references to the Wanta Reagan-Mitterrand protocols. Those represent money Wanta has personally agreed to pay from his own funds, the $4.5 trillion he earned in contract agreements with the United States government for risking his life day after day for so many years in service to his government. He wasn't paid a salary. He worked by contract agreement, and the $4.5 trillion represents funds due him for 30 years of very dangerous work. From that sum, Wanta has agreed to pay billions of dollars to several European nations. Most notably, $30 billion goes to the Russian Federation. Other nations involved in the protocols include $5 billion each to the governments of Canada, France, Germany, Greece, Italy, Mexico, and Spain. The protocols will settle the rocky financial markets so close to failure in Europe, and that, in turn, will go a long ways towards settling the markets of the United States. The point is, when he served as President Ronald Reagan's personal intelligence coordinator, Leo Wanta promised Reagan he would bring down the Soviet Union ruble, which he did. And he would save the profits from that endeavor to pay America out of debt when the overspending crooks in government put the nation into bankruptcy. That would be now. Leo Wanta is one of the nicest people you will ever meet, truly a gentleman. His story involves well-known people like Hillary Clinton, Vince Foster, George Herbert Walker and George W. Bush, William Jefferson Clinton, Barack Obama, Dick Cheney, Dan Quayle, Al Gore, George Soros, Vladimir Putin, and many other recognizable names. The story is filled with intrigue that involves the Soviet Union, Stinger missiles, Osama bin Laden, or Tim Osman as he was known when he was a CIA agent. I don't think I've ever talked or written about Leo Wanta without being asked if he is for real. So let's talk some Wanta world history. The things Leo Wanta has done fall into the realm of the unreal, but he did them. As his official biographer, I have verified the things you will read on the following pages, or the pages you will listen to on this recording, to the degree it is possible to verify things about a super-secret intelligence operative. When I talk about court cases, I have every court transcript regarding every court action involving Leo Wanta. I know with certainty when I speak of the court cases that the information is absolutely accurate because my source is court transcripts. When I write about the secret intelligence operations Leo Wanta was involved in, I have documents that support what I'm saying. Do I have all the documents? No, the things Leo Wanta was involved in were highly secret operations. But I do have copies of Wanta's field reports, his letters to Dan Quayle and Dick Cheney and to Presidents George H.W. Bush, Bill Clinton, George W. Bush, and Barack Obama. I have documents from the Ronald Reagan Library. I have copies of the answers Leo gave under penalty of perjury to those questioning him from various intelligence agencies while he sat on the floor of his prison cells handwriting responses. Lee has a very distinctive script, and I don't believe anyone could copy it to write the hundreds of pages involved. And generally speaking, when I received those documents, He verified on the telephone that he was the one who sent them. The most logical question any reader might ask me is, how do you know that the person you talk with on the telephone and those handwritten records belong to the real Leo Wanta? Well, I have copies of the mortgage papers Leo Wanta signed when he and his wife purchased their home in Appleton, Wisconsin in 1977, before he became President Reagan's personal intelligence coordinator and before he got involved in Reagan's presidential task force to take down the Soviet Union ruble. I have copies of other documents he signed long before his status as a secret agent involved the office of the President of the United States, which placed him at the top of the list maintained by people who want to destroy our republic. I have copies of his handwriting from legal documents signed by Leo Emil Wanta when he was a partner at an Eco-Credit Private Limited in Singapore, as Chief Executive Officer of New Republic in Austria, as Chief Executive Officer of Ameritrust in Virginia. And I had his handwriting analyzed by 2 experts trained by the FBI. I have pictures of him. How do I know they're him? Well, last year I sent him a baseball cap with the words Wanta University embroidered on it. He had a picture taken of himself wearing the cap in front of the Federal Reserve Building in St. Louis. I sent a copy to the woman who was his case manager when he was in prison in Oklahoma, and she verified that it is Lee or Leo Wanta. How do I know she is who she says she is? I made 2 trips to Oklahoma to meet and spend days talking with her. I met her friends and family. She is who she says she is. And I met a second case manager while in Oklahoma who also made verifications. My background is that of banking. I was a commercial banker with Denver's largest bank, United, now Wells Fargo. I believe only someone schooled in banking, I hold a graduate degree in that subject from the University of Colorado School of Business, would be capable of understanding the significance of what Leo Wanta accomplished and be able to write about it. Prior to beginning my career as a banker, I was a journalist, and while a banker, I wrote numerous articles for national bank publications like The American Banker. After becoming disabled in 1993 and leaving my banking career behind, I once again began writing. You can find my editorials at WorldNet Daily, News with Views, Canada Free Press, and others online. I also write for print publications that you won't find online. I have hesitated to write this book because the material contained in it is so difficult to believe. As I began, I'm 75 years old. I have spent a lifetime working to make sure my reputation was built on truth. I spent 20 years as a banker and another 20 years as a journalist, and I do not, at this late stage, want to write anything that would damage my reputation for truth and seniors will understand what I'm saying. There's no more time available to go out and right a wrong, a mistake you might make. Thus I have hesitated to write this book. But it is an important book, and the story of Lee or Leo Emil Wanta needs to be told. Americans need to know that our nation still breeds patriots worthy of being called hero, but who remain in the hidden shadows of the unrecognizable. Lee Emil Wanta is one such hero. It has taken 4 years of daily conversations with Lee Wanta and thousands of pages of documents, most from him, but Thousands I receive from outside sources like courts and lawyers, Wanta's friends, investigative reporters, and currency experts, and the Reagan Library. It has required my reading some of the most obscene court documents from the state of Wisconsin I have ever read, and I hope to never see the likes of again. Lee Wanta and I have never met, and probably never will. It wouldn't be safe for me, and he refuses to endanger me, but I know him. As I take the first step of writing this very important story, I pray the Lord will enable me to hold the interest of readers and keep my feet on the path of truth and facts. Though I have written non-fiction books about banks and banking, some of which were published by the American Bankers Association, and at least 2 of which are archived at Oxford and Cambridge University libraries, I hope my writing skills are up to the subject matter. You, the reader, will hand down the verdict on that subject. This is one of the most important stories ever told, and I hope to tell it well. The life of Leo Emil Wanta is complex and filled with details. I have made every effort as an author to include only the details and the complexities required to tell the story thoroughly. Believe me, if I put all of the material available to me in this manuscript, it would take you 4 years to digest it, just as it has taken me. I wish you a pleasant journey into the life and times of Leo Emil Wanta, though I think it doubtful you will find many of the details surrounding his life and the treatment of this American hero by the government he served pleasant.